da ciência quântica ao empreendedorismo, ao campo da criatividade. Lala, eu estou muito feliz de contar com a sua participação, com a sua parceria, de ter você aqui conosco hoje. Seja muito bem-vinda e o palco é seu, minha querida.
Um prazer estar aqui com você, um prazer honrar e encontrar de novo este querido amigo de muitos anos. Amit, can you please tell me if you have translation, because I want to honor you, my friend.
I can hear you in English just fine.
Wow, perfect. Então, o que eu pensei em fazer hoje é contar para vocês um pouco o que o contato com uma fonte de conhecimento, como é o Amit, como pessoa e como conhecimento, pode provocar na vida de alguém. E isso é muito fácil de falar 26 anos depois. E é importante, então eu achei que era bacana falar disso, sabe? De como, primeiro, a gente pode se abrir para a possibilidade de que as coisas aconteçam de uma forma menos no padrão, sabe? Que de repente acontece alguma coisa que vira a sua vida e que te leva para caminhos que você não imaginava. E foi assim que aconteceu comigo com o Amit. Então, eu vou contar um pouco de história, só para localizar. Hoje, eu tenho eu tenho um corpo de conhecimento que chama fluxonomia. Ele é uma combinação de futuro e novas economias para que a gente cocrie realidades mesmo. Não apenas imaginando, mas materializando através das novas economias. No momento, estou dedicada a desenhar tecnologia para acessar outras formas de riqueza que são abundantes, porém, a nossa falta de consciência faz com que elas sejam invisíveis. As nossas crenças nos impedem de ver essas riquezas, porque são riquezas como todo o conhecimento que a gente tem, etc. E, com isso, a gente vive um contexto de escassez, no meio sentados em cima de um tesouro. Então, no momento, eu estou trabalhando em tecnologia para isso, no momento de investimento no desenvolvimento disso, procurando investidores, quem sabe ele está aqui entre nós também. E aí eu queria contar como é que as coisas começam. Eu sempre estudei a questão do tangível e do intangível. Eu venho da área cultural. Eu tinha a clara percepção de que é semelhante à natureza material, digamos, 3D, e toda a parte do conhecimento da informação. Eu comecei primeiro trabalhando isso, estudando, fazendo uma obra a partir do Caminho do Herói. Isso foi de 90 a 92. E era sempre essa busca de como é que as ideias mudam a realidade, como é a ponte entre o tangível e o intangível, que eu via muito claramente. Em 92, eu quebrei o joelho dançando. E aí eu falei, não, eu preciso conseguir me curar. E foi aí que eu conheci a física quântica pela primeira vez, com toda a questão de cura quântica. E também o Rupert Sheldrake, campos de ressonância mórfica, etc. Essa pesquisa me fez, em 95, ir para a Amazônia, num congresso de psicologia transpessoal, que foi inacreditável, aonde tinha, e aonde a coisa que mais me marcou, vou ficar emocionada agora, foi uma palestra com o Amit, onde ele me presenteou isso aqui. I don't know if you remember, you gave me this very one, in 95.
That was many years ago.
E desde então, essa imagem se tornou a imagem básica de todo o meu trabalho. Isso aqui é uma obra do Escher, porque é a imagem que o Amit me deu e que melhor representa a gente como co-criador da realidade. Aí acabou a fala, eu falei, eu quero mais. Aí eu fui para a Índia. Janeiro, ano novo, de 95 para 96, 95, um ano muito importante. Foi o ano que eu virei futurista. Quando eu conheci os primeiros futuristas e conheci o Amit, janeiro de 96, fui para a Índia, para um encontro de física quântica e espiritualidade em Bangalore, um privilégio, uma imersão muito grande. Nós nos tornamos amigos, somos vizinhos de aniversário, escorpianos. A ex-mulher do Amit era bailarina, como eu era, a uma querida, e a gente ficou muito próximo. Saí de lá, fui para um outro workshop em Calcutá, com o Fred Alan Wolf, outro privilégio, uma semana de imersão com ele. Bom, a partir daí, começa toda uma história. Em 98, a gente teve muito próximo, o Amit não era ainda tão conhecido. A gente ficou aqui alguns meses, de junho até setembro, no Brasil, com muitas atividades, e era tudo muito novo, e parecia tudo muito estranho, mas foi uma experiência muito importante. Essa experiência me deu a segurança que a gente que é transformador de mundo precisa ter. Porque sempre a gente vai estar falando de coisas que ainda não são visíveis para a maioria. E a gente precisa ter uma certeza de alma, uma certeza de outra natureza, de que as coisas são assim. Eu tinha um pouco disso. E o contato com o Amit, o conhecimento dele, me deu o lastro para atravessar 26 anos de, muitas vezes, contra a corrente, porque as coisas que eu falava, no momento em que eu falava, elas pareciam muito estranhas, e com o tempo elas foram se revelando a realidade. Então, sei lá, quando comecei a trabalhar com economia criativa na ONU, em 2004, 2005, tu não fala, o que é isso? E hoje, os maiores negócios do mundo, como o Facebook, o Google, são economia criativa. Então, eu tenho ainda o quê? 4 minutos? Eu queria trazer isso para vocês. Não deixem de entrar numa jornada assim, e não deixem jamais de acreditar que o impossível é possível. Jamais. Porque o tempo é cocriado por todo mundo. A realidade, ela é claramente cocriada por todo mundo. Eu tenho dentro de mim a vozinha do Amit, que a gente, no começo, eu era tradutora também, numas aventuras. Então, tenho a voz dele. Consciousness is the ground of all being. E essa questão da consciência, de que quando a gente muda a consciência, a gente muda tudo, ela permeia todo o trabalho. Ela foi a base do meu trabalho com novas economias, ela foi a base do movimento Querer Futuros, que foi um prêmio que eu ganhei da cooperação espanhola, ao perceber, eu nessa época já estava trabalhando em grande escala, né? Trabalhando entre 2004 e 2013, eu trabalhei na ONU, trabalhei com a cooperação espanhola e fui até o momento de desenhar planos nacionais para países africanos, Moçambique e Cabo Verde. E a grande dificuldade, qualquer pessoa que trabalha com inovação sabe disso, a grande dificuldade não é você criar uma inovação. A grande dificuldade é a mudança de mentalidade, a mudança de consciência, que permite a adoção dessa inovação. Então, eu criei esse movimento com um prêmio aí que eu ganhei da cooperação espanhola, que chamava Querer Futuros, que resultou nesse livro feito em 2012, um dos primeiros crowdfundings para poder inspirar lideranças da Rio+20. Ele foi publicado em inglês, português e coreano, estranhamente, relançado em 2019. Esse aqui é o mais recente, que sintetiza o trabalho de economias e de futuro. Mas o tempo inteiro, gente, o que eu queria trazer era mais esse depoimento de que, não tenha medo de estar à frente do teu tempo. Se você vê coisas que os outros não veem, não desiste. Observa, percebe. E se aquilo que você percebe faz sentido, você segue nessa trilha. E aí, estude, aproveita que existem pessoas como o Amit que podem, de repente, nos mudar a vida, como ele mudou a minha, e que é a base de todo o trabalho. Quem conhece um pouco de fluxonomia é a base.
Okay.
Então, é isso. Muito obrigada.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your story. Everybody's story is important. and quantum science, and the program that I want to invite all of you is to exactly validate the story you are capable of. Many people today don't get to live the story that they're capable of. They don't fulfill their potential because the opportunities are lost, very unfortunately, believe it or not, due to socio-cultural complete ignorance. What more can I say? I mean, ignorance is the only word that describes it. The ignorance is due to a half-assed worldview. The idea that the world is made of matter. Quantum physics has definitely proven, experimental data has validated that the world is not made of matter. Instead, the world, material world, consists of possibilities for consciousness to choose from. And we are manifestation of that consciousness. And therefore, if we live our life right, if we think right, if we live right, if we synchronize our professions with how we want to live and how we think, then we can manifest our potentialities. How this can come true, of course, requires hard work because of, again, socio-cultural conditioning that you already have, that we cannot change overnight. That will take a long time to change. But until that happens, at whatever age you are, if you take our program, then I personally guarantee you that you will have a different way of living, a different way of thinking, synchronized with the way that you are in your living. Meaning and purpose will come back to you, that will get you to health, prosperity, and happiness like never before. And this is what I want to see in everyone's life, in Brazil and in the world. So thanks to Clarissa for arranging this. I invite you with all my love to attend our master's and PhD program. Let me explain what the program does, or what the program prepares you for, and then I'll answer questions. Is that good, Clarissa? Okay.
Amit, I suggest we go back to the program a little later. I would like to explore some topics with you before, but before that, I would just thanks Lala again, and then we go further.
Okay.
Lala, muito obrigada. É uma honra contar com você aqui. Eu e com certeza todos que nos ouvem, ficamos com muito gostinho de quero mais. Eu sugiro que a gente volte juntas para abrir mais espaço para você compartilhar sua maravilhosa sabedoria e para a gente poder saber mais sobre a fluxonomia 4D, as aplicações disso. Quem ainda não conhecia a Lala, por favor, sigam a Lala no Instagram, nas redes sociais. Ela tem um conteúdo maravilhoso a compartilhar. Lala, muito obrigada e fique conosco. Nos veremos em breve. Agora eu vou dar continuidade em inglês com a Amit, a entrevista, e no final a gente vai voltar para perguntas e respostas em português, então fiquem conosco. Muito obrigada.
All right. So
Amit, the first thing that I would like to explore with you, and bringing a brief introduction. You know that I've been studying your theory for 10 years already. And you know that your wisdom completely changed my life. And also the lives of thousands of students in Brazil and other countries around the world, and who became quantum activists under your guidance. And as you introduced today, you bring a new scientific worldview. And this new vision, we know that this brings a brand new possibility for both individual and collective transformation. with quite impressive applications in the field of business, education, psychology, and integral health. So I would like to ask you to share a little bit what makes different quantum science from classic science, just as a brief introduction, and mainly how far humanity can go following this new quantum paradigm.
Good, very good beginning. So let me count the ways. First of all, most important, of course, is that the training that you have today, the sociocultural and academic training, on the backdrop is that you are nothing but your brain. You are made of matter, and you don't really have any fundamental creativity except what you are given. In other words, you cannot change in any fundamental way. You can make permutations and combinations of what is available knowledge, and that's it. That's where our life is, just that. Living out the physiology we have, living out the programs we get during our bringing up period, and that's it. But of course, that excludes all the stuff that consciousness brings us, because it is completely based on material stimuli, just sensing, and it really is machine-like. Quantum physics has conclusively shown that without consciousness, there is no experience. And because we have experience, everyone is a living proof that we are not machines, we are not just the brain, we have something extra, which is called consciousness, and that consciousness brings us freedom to choose. And that freedom to choose is what we miss the maximum. There is infinite potentiality. This is also what quantum physics says, that we can choose. But we don't choose it because we falsely identify with the existing paradigm that we cannot choose, we cannot change. So what we do in this program, Masters and PhD are incidentals that you get, but really what it's about is transforming you to take charge of who you really are. You are this ground of being, literally. Just like Jesus or any spiritual teachers have told us for a long time, thousands of years, they have all told us that we are all God's children. We are all God's children. And this has to be understood. God is here, consciousness, which it means is that we are all manifestation of the same consciousness. Quantum physics has a concept called non-locality, signal-less communication. If you and I just intend to correlate with each other, we become connected. That intention to correlate is the entry point to quantum world. As we intend to correlate with others, we learn to expand our consciousness. We learn to go beyond our machineness, beyond the base level human condition that the brain gives. And this is what we teach, because the sociocultural conditioning is thick. Don't make any mistake about it. You spend years with it. It's not going to change right away. But the knowledge will gradually free you from the shackles of that very limited worldview, of what you can do and what you cannot do. You can choose your life. You can choose what you think, and you can choose meaning and purpose. And this choosing meaning and purpose is everything that brings creativity in your life. And creativity is what we use to reclaim the powers you have as a conscious being. It sounds kind of very straightforward and simple. It is at some level, but at the level of doing, as I said, the sociocultural conditioning is very thick. And this is why it will take 2 years to get a master's degree from us, and that is just a preparation for changing.
That's perfect, Amit. Let me dive here a little bit, because you mentioned creativity, and our inspiration for this gathering, it's is diving in a little bit in the creative intelligence topic. And in your theory, you propose 3 levels of intelligence and 6 levels of happiness that are interconnected in some way. And you teach us a process that points the way for transcending several kinds of limitation and even suffering for attaining this higher intelligence and wholeness. So could you please share what are the different levels of intelligence and how common people can progress to achieve those higher levels?
Okay, the first level of intelligence is simply mental intelligence, but it's not IQ intelligence. IQ intelligence we call level 0 of intelligence. It may surprise you, but it is because it is just machine intelligence. It's the ability of sorting out what information you have and give the best answer with those informations. It does not bring you into the picture at all. It's mechanical, and therefore you are not using your intelligence. The intelligence is the ability of using the input and come up with the best answer that you have as consciousness. And your input is not just the input from the material world, your input also comes from consciousness. And therefore, that openness to consciousness, that input is what we call creativity. When we are open to that, then you have the first level of intelligence, which is mental intelligence that includes creative intelligence. Not only I give the mechanical answer based on everything that I know, everything people know, but also I am open to get a creative answer if that is what is available, that is what will solve the problem. That is the first level of intelligence. But of course, even with this level of intelligence, we are still beset constantly with the negative emotions that our brain has built in from our child, from our birth. And we cannot help because they are unconscious in us. And so we succumb to these negative emotions. You all are familiar with them. I don't even have to name them: anger, jealousy, procrastination, domination, what have you. So they are constantly holding us back. So the second level of intelligence is to have balance, the power to balance and control them. This requires some training. This requires also what we call quantum leaping, creative change, rewiring the brain. So this is the first huge work. And this part actually it may sound like boasting, but this part we really thoroughly teach our students. So all of you can expect to have emotional intelligence as you graduate from our program. The third level is more complex and more difficult. Our PhD students will get an entry to that level. This is what we call the soul level. The concept of soul is used by everybody, but it's much diluted, although the basic concept is still there. When we say soul, we don't mean the ego. Ego is burdened by all these base level situations, me-centeredness, negative emotions, pleasure, attachment. The soul is free of all that. Soul has emotional intelligence already. That's the entry requirement of soul living, soul building. The rest of it is more creativity, creativity at a fundamental level, creativity not only using your mind, but also using your feelings, using your heart, how to wake up the heart. That's another piece of work. And that is all part of soul living. It was part of also emotional intelligence, but there the heart can play a secondary role because heart is connected to the brain and brain controls the heart to some extent. So in that sense, we can approach to the brain and achieve some knowledge, wisdom from the heart through the brain. That's the emotional intelligence can be based on that. But if we want to go beyond that, we really have to discover the heart as an independent self identity. And that is what requires the further work, and we call it supramental intelligence, beyond the mind. We could not do this with mental work alone. We have to bring in vital creativity as well, creativity with feelings. And we now have the science, thanks to many people contributing to this new science. And this then is the main teaching in the PhD program, how to make a soul for yourself. People constantly say to each other today, do you have a soul? But you don't really know the extent of what a soul can do once we have the soul living. And when you get the entire picture, as Carissa was trying to explain, 3 levels of intelligence and 6 levels of happiness, yes, it is a fantastic journey. And I welcome you, everyone here, to enter that journey, and we will help as much as we can.
Amit, this is a fabulous topic that you are speaking about. Before we open to them for a brief Q&A, could you tell a little bit more about your creativity theory? I mean, you have a whole theory for creative potential development. So my question is, how can we develop creativity thinking for better decision-making in leadership and individual transformation? Most people I see on a daily basis, like leaders in corporations and also in mentorship, they complain a lot that it became really tough to be creative in this time of uncertainty. So what you could tell people about possible ways for improving creative thinking for better decision-making and personal transformation?
Okay, this is the basic question that we must be able to answer. Creativity, when I started the research, people knew about the creative process, but they did not understand it. Creative process has a very strange way that creativity manifests. It reveals a very strange way, because some of it is work and some of it is doing nothing. And this work and doing nothing does not really make sense, because it seems in the first place that creativity is all thinking until I get the idea. But the research found that no, it's not like that. It has 2 phases, essential phases, before the insights come. Then insight, and then you manifest the insight. That's understood. But this why both do and be, that nobody understood. And this is where quantum science comes in. Quantum science says, yes, do is good. That's the personal level at which we can attack the problem. But that level is not going to give the answer, because there's so many possibilities to explore. So what we do at that point, we do a certain amount of investigation ourselves, and then we just give it to our unconscious. This unconscious is a dimension of us that was discovered by Freud, but that unconscious is what the consciousness as the ground of being is about. That consciousness has no subject, no object. It is just a oneness. Nothing is separate. That is our unconscious. It has all the potentialities, infinite potentialities of mental thinking, vital feeling, supramental, archetypal insights. Everything is contained in that unconscious, if we can only tap it. And the way to tap it is this: resting after you have prepared a whole bunch of questions for you to surrender to the unconscious. And when you do that in an effortless way, in a seamless way, continuous way, I do, then I be, I do, then I be, I call it do, be, do, be, do. If you do that in a focused way, focus, unfocus, focus, unfocus, but never get wait so long between focusing that you lose touch with the question itself. This process leads us to the creative insight, which we call the quantum leap, because that is also a quantum process. it cannot be predicted. What you get is always accompanied with surprise. Aha. It is an aha experience, surprise experience. Why? Because nobody could anticipate the answer. And this is why quantum science is essential to understand creativity. But there are some other factors that we have also developed, which is why we call science of manifestation. Not only the creative process, but we have three other processes that must come ahead of time. I said openness. I said we have to intend, and we have to learn to intuit. So we have summarized this whole thing in a 7I process. This is interesting. You can note it down and try it if you like. So the first is inspiration. Inspiration, you all can know how important it is for changing our life. We must be inspired. In that inspired state, we intend what we want to accomplish, the purpose that we want to explore and fulfill. And then we wait. We intuit. Intuition comes. Intuition is a direct, non-local communication from consciousness. It comes with archetypal insights, insights about thought that goes beyond mental thought, known mental thought, thought that comes loaded with values like truth, beauty, justice, love, goodness, wholeness, all that, these archetypes. So this inspiration, intention, intuition, and then comes the creative process. Do is imagination. B is called incubation, borrowing a word from a very beautiful imagery of birds sitting on an egg, incubation of an egg. The quantum leap, of course, is insight, and manifestation, we give a I word of implementation. So these 7 words, Portuguese is very similar to English, easy to remember, 7 words, the 7 steps, if you remember, and how to exercise the 7 steps, you have it. Your intentions can come true, and your intentions, with your intentions coming true, you can change not only your life, you can change the world. This is the whole movement of quantum activism.
They love that. Can you please just repeat the 7 I's, the words, so everyone can get? Intention.
Absolutely. So, inspiration, inspiração. Intention, intenção. Intuition, intuição, is that right?
Yes, yes.
Imagination, imaginação. Incubation, incubation. Insight, this one is Brazilian is slightly different. You have to fill it, the translator is filling in, I guess. Okay, insight, and then implementation. That's implementation, I guess.
That's right. That's perfect. That's lovely, Ahmed. And this takes us to talk a little bit about quantum activism before I can invite them for a journey with us. You created the quantum activism movement 10 years ago. So this year we are super happy to celebrate this 10th anniversary of quantum activism, and I was there with you since the beginning. And also you and Dr. Valentina Oniso, that is here with us today, you both created a unique program for deep dive in quantum happiness, health, and prosperity. And you have been engaging entrepreneurs around the globe with this certification in master degree and PhD. But also, along with the program, you created the Quantum Activism Visual Alliance, which means a place for all. Is that right? That's our international community.
Yeah.
So before we talk about opportunities for a student, because I have an invitation for them, could you share a little bit about the quantum activist movement, and also What's your next step in this Visual Iron project? How excited are you for leading this global movement further?
Okay, I'm tremendously excited. Let me first tell that in the beginning. Quantum activism started when I realized that like 400 years ago, when modern science had to battle Christian establishment to see its way into the society, the same situation is here with us again. As surprising as it may sound, that was 400 years ago. And we are supposed to have been ignorant at that time, loaded with ignorance. How for 400 years we are behaving like the same ignorant people, have closed ourselves, is beyond belief, but it has happened. It has happened, and actually worse. You all know the latest report about global warming and all that. We have destroyed the earth in the process. We have destroyed political process in the process. You are right now in Brazil facing a kind of halfway dictatorship. We in America went through that the last 4 years, halfway dictatorship. But this is happening. This is happening in democratic countries. And this is happening all over the world, global warming, global climate change. This is what this myopic ignorance has brought us. In just 60 years, it had managed to destroy what we knew as civilization. And the more we live this, we destroy. No? So that's why I created the movement of quantum activism. We have to be activists in order to bring the message of quantum physics experimentally verified. This is the tragedy. Science always has accepted experimentally verified results as changing something. Today, neuroscience has experimentally verified that our ego is not the end of it all. We have a higher self. We call it quantum self because we have a model for this higher self based on quantum physics. But the experimental data shows that non-locality is present in our brain. Our brain itself can act as a conduit for constricted consciousness as well as expanded consciousness. It is not just a Newtonian brain, it is also a quantum brain. You mentioned Valentina, she and I have written a book called The Quantum Brain, and this is part and parcel of the education we have created. So quantum activism, Bishalam came about. Initially we were just doing quantum activism workshops and 5-day workshops, which, as you said, a couple of thousand of Brazilians have taken, and maybe another couple of thousand all over the world. But education was not enough. People come to our 5-day workshop, they are dedicated to the principles of quantum physics, non-locality I mentioned, quantum leaps I mentioned. There is a relationship concept of two-way relationship between people. They get dedicated to that, they practice that, they meditate following some of the exercises that we do in the workshop. But really, without guidance, it is very difficult to scale those levels of intelligence and levels of happiness that we talked about. People still fundamentally remain the same. And so we decided that no, we have to teach people higher level of education, taking the time. If they have the time, then we can teach. But of course, we felt very strongly because this world also is what it is. We have to face reality. People need to make a living. Therefore, we also, with our education, give people new expertise. And fortunately, consciousness is moving on, and consciousness has brought into necessity. People are seeing, 15% of the world people are seeing that there are higher needs, and they're looking for those needs. And therefore, there is a market for this training. You will be able to find yourself a very satisfying profession. Don't doubt it. It is fact, and I am just repeating a fact. So this is basically the story of quantum activism and quantum activism Vishala. It came about because of people such as you, Clarissa, because you joined us not knowing what you're going to get, and we developed education right while teaching you the complete education. And today is a very auspicious day because including you, we have 9 people who took their first master's exam. And Valentina reports that everybody is passing. And we have first graduates of this university, transformational university. And we also have a first batch of our students who will start with PhD only courses, and you are one of them, Teresa. So I'm really super excited to say these things, because 2 years ago when we started, we didn't know what is going to happen. And then COVID came, and COVID threw a monkey wrench in all of our plans. But still, in spite of COVID, Brazilians, Americans, Europeans, Indians, they responded, they kept responding. And so we have survived, and we are doing well.
That's true, and I feel so emotional. I'm so grateful. At this point, I feel like sharing briefly, just a little bit of my own transformation trajectory, and then we have a special invitation for everyone here in the room. And if you can just wait 5 minutes, Amit, then we come back to 3 questions before you go. So I'll talk in Portuguese just to connect with them from the heart, and then I come back in English with you in a moment. Então, o que eu sinto de compartilhar com vocês é que eu conheci o Amit em 2010, quando eu estava numa grande inquietação interna. Eu trabalhava como diretora de meio ambiente, sustentabilidade e relações externas da maior indústria mundial de embalagens, uma indústria que produz embalagens descartáveis para as maiores fabricantes de bens de consumo, de alimentos, de bebidas. E eu sentia grandes conflitos éticos dentro de mim por representar publicamente aquela empresa, porque era uma empresa poluidora, era uma empresa que impactava comunidades, e eu era a porta-voz oficial diante dos clientes, que eram grandes industriais, da imprensa e de todas as comunidades impactadas pelas operações dessa companhia. Naquela fase, eu ainda estava em busca do meu propósito de vida, eu me sentia ainda desencaixada, embora eu fosse bem-sucedida do ponto de vista materialista tradicional do que é sucesso. Mas por dentro eu tinha uma angústia muito grande. E o meu primeiro encontro com o Amit foi num workshop em São Paulo sobre economia da consciência, onde ele introduziu o ativismo quântico. E quando ele apresentou a visão de mundo quântica, eu comecei a chorar. Mas não foi um chorinho assim, foi um transbordamento. Eu fiquei muito tempo ali afogada em lágrimas na primeira fileira, e porque tudo que ele falou foi a resposta para aquilo que eu buscava para a minha inquietação existencial. Eu já era praticante de yoga naquele momento, há 10 anos, eu meditava diariamente, e eu me sentia dividida entre 2 mundos, o meu mundo interno, das experiências sutis, por meio da meditação, da yoga, e o mundo externo material, que era a rotina diária. Então, o Amit, ele me trouxe o entendimento, e é sobre isso que eu quero falar com vocês agora. O Amit me trouxe o entendimento que é totalmente possível ter um alinhamento entre quem você é, o que você acredita, a sua forma de ganhar a vida, e o seu estilo de vida. O ativismo quântico é sobre conquistar esse alinhamento. Esse movimento criado por ele há 10 anos. Esse movimento, ele é um convite para que cada um possa contribuir para o processo de mudança global, que eu sei que cada um de vocês tem um coração que pulsa aí dentro, que quer realizar mudanças. E com o Amit eu percebi que a gente não pode mudar o mundo, mas a gente pode transformar a nossa própria vida, a gente pode mergulhar na transformação pessoal e, a partir da nossa própria transformação, ser um agente influenciador, ser um agente protagonista de mudanças no sistema social, seja qual for a sua profissão. Então, a partir daquele momento, eu me conectei com a Amit e nunca mais o larguei. Eu me tornei amiga do empresário dele, que é o Adriano Fromer. O Adriano foi um dos meus primeiros clientes em coaching. Naquela fase, eu deixei de ser uma executiva e me tornei coach de vida e carreira. Mais tarde, eu fui me desenvolver como coach de líderes. E hoje eu sou mentora, sou palestrante, sou formadora de mentores, né? Então, eu me tornei aluna dele e cursei muitos workshops ao longo desses 10 anos e me graduei no mestrado na semana passada. O Amit já contou para vocês que eu abracei agora o doutorado, eu não pensei que eu fosse fazer isso, mas veja, esse programa que o Amit traz, ele não é um programa teórico apenas. É claro que tem a parte teórica, mas o mais interessante é que é um programa transformacional. Ele é um programa repleto de práticas, de aplicações e de conexões entre alunos do mundo todo. E ele nos guia para descobrir qual é o nosso arquétipo. O arquétipo, ele explicou hoje, que é a porta para a inteligência supramental, a inteligência de alma. É quando você consegue se conectar com os valores humanos universais e trazer, vamos dizer, uma centelhazinha da perfeição do universo para a sua própria vida e viver com propósito, né? Então, quando você tem oportunidade de estar num programa que é tão vivencial, tudo fica mais leve. Esses 2 anos de mestrado, eles passaram muito rápido. O mestrado vai virar um livro, assim como o doutorado, com certeza, vai virar um programa de desenvolvimento profissional e pessoal para vocês aproveitarem. Então, hoje eu quero aproveitar essa oportunidade de celebração dos 10 anos de ativismo e apoiar aqui o Amit Goswami e a Valentina Unissor em estender para vocês essa oportunidade, e isso é algo que vem dos nossos corações. Por isso que, assim, o Amit, a Valentina, eu e todos que já estão nesse grupo, a gente tem tanta vontade de compartilhar, que é por isso que o Amit já entra no webinar contando sobre isso para vocês, porque para ele é muito grande o desejo de multiplicar esse legado. E somos nós que vamos levar o legado que eles estão construindo adiante, né? Então, é um programa totalmente transformador, ele é muito além dessa formação teórica. Para quem tiver interesse em saber mais, ele reúne como pilares de aprendizagem a saúde mental, o empreendedorismo com propósito e a psicologia da felicidade, isso de uma forma integrada e sempre apoiado nos fundamentos da ciência quântica. Em seguida, eu vou abrir para perguntas. Eu quero só finalizar comentando que essa diplomação ela é internacional, e a diplomação, tanto no nível de mestrado quanto de doutorado, ela é emitida pela Universidade de Tecnologia de Jaipur, que é uma cidade muito importante na Índia. Para quem tem vontade de participar, é interessante comentar que as aulas são online, conduzidas pelo próprio Amit ao vivo, então não é um curso gravado que você vai fazer sozinho, ele conduz o programa, assim como a Valentina, em datas específicas, não é toda semana, então não é nada muito pesado também. As aulas acontecem sábados ou domingos de manhã, aqui no horário do Brasil, e ele oferece também inúmeros cursos gravados de extrema qualidade que você pode aproveitar de uma forma assíncrona no horário que você quiser. Então, quero dizer que para aqueles que sentirem vontade de saber mais da minha experiência nesse programa, ter mais detalhes e ter essa experiência de autodesenvolvimento que é sem igual, que nenhum outro programa hoje no mundo compartilha, e ser um ativista quântico, vocês podem acessar o grupo que eu criei, que se chama Inteligencia Criativa. A Kelly, nossa produtora, vai colocar aqui no chat o acesso ao grupo. E lá pelo grupo você pode me chamar em privado, a gente pode conversar. E também, através de mim, você pode ter acesso a uma bolsa de estudos de 30%, que vai tornar essa experiência ainda mais acessível. É realmente acessível, acreditem, então podemos conversar. Agora, as pessoas estão fazendo perguntas aqui sobre arquétipos. Eu vou coletar algumas perguntas pelo chat. Se eu tiver qualquer dificuldade, eu vou pedir ajuda da Kelly pelo WhatsApp, mas eu acho que dá para pegar aqui. Então, eu vou voltar para o inglês para fazer as perguntas para o Amit em inglês. So, Amit, we have some questions here. If you can stay for another 10 or 15 minutes.
Sure.
We have a question from Renata Cruz. She's saying that for many, many years, she has been through several kinds of rebirths and quantum leaps that have been happening to her through meditation in silence, and that she could not control that. And she realized that she could only transform herself. And now that she's searching for this new experience and vision, but she realized that many people have a lot of difficulty in keeping the mind quiet and give space for intuition and spirituality. So her question is, how can she keep this state of meditation, of inner calm and peace and intuition? How to keep that state?
Yeah, this is precisely what we say is building the soul. When we are in the ego, these experiences are totally transitory. We get workshop high, for example, or somebody inspires us. For a while, it seems like we can do it, but it passes. And then we are back to the same base level condition. And we find that, no, we cannot do it. So these fluctuations is the way that people of this, lot of people, we call them new ages. They are good people, well-minded people, but they're stuck because nobody is teaching them how to keep these states. And that requires a protected program. This is what we realized. This is what led to the founding the university. I was a visiting lecturer all over the world, and that was a lot of fun. Now my visiting travel is much reduced, but I'm so very happy in contributing directly to the building of soul in people, real people. And of course, our education is mostly internet, but you will be surprised. I was surprised how much correlation, this entanglement of non-locality we can do over the internet. But of course, we also have 10-day proximity, and we will take care of the stabilization. This is what the soul level is about. How to keep the consciousness expanded for longer and longer period of time. This is the entire education. You just hit it right there at the right spot. How to make that experience of momentary high to a stable experience of expanded consciousness from which we can actually live the values and reflect them in what we do and how we relate to others. And in that relationship to others, we also change the world. We can pass on what we have learned, because it is by relationship that we really interact with the world. And so we do affect the world. Both we change ourselves, yes, but changing ourselves and having relationships, we also change the world. Okay, thank you for the question.
Great, Amit, thank you. There's another question from Celso Pedroso. He's from an important university here, the Catholic University of Campinas. And he's asking, what's your vision for reincarnation and awakening?
Yes, you want to hear about, there was no question I heard. Is there a question?
Yeah, Celso is asking, what's your vision about reincarnation and spiritual awakening?
Okay. Okay, so reincarnation is an essential part of this journey as well. To tell you the truth, if you were new in the game of reincarnation, you wouldn't be here. You would not be open for this. Lots of people are stuck in their survival needs. Until your survival needs is satisfied, this is what the great Abraham Maslow discovered in the last century. We cannot engage to higher needs. And this is a higher need. meaning and purpose are higher needs of life. And so you already had many incarnations. Why do we need too many incarnations? Because this exploration in creativity, the exploration of the supramental objects that we call archetypes, elevated thinking and elevated feeling that they give us, love, beauty, justice, truth, wholeness, abundance, even power, that's an archetype. And we have to get our time to explore these archetypes. So you have had many lives, and that's very good, because now you are ready to get to the transpersonal aspect of life. You are ready for higher needs. Just like the first questioner, you also want to stabilize your experience. So you have a reincarnational aspect of archetype that we call your dharma, and you want to fulfill your dharma. So the first thing we do is to help you find your reincarnational archetype, the archetype that you choose to explore in your journey first. This is your entrance into the archetypal world, into the world of purpose, into the world of the soul. So this is the first thing, and then you teach you how to fulfill, how to embody that archetype to the best you can. And that is the education. So reincarnation is part and parcel of that education. You bring propensities to help you explore that specific archetype of dharma, your personal choice. And when we find it for you, your life will be so satisfying when you explore the archetype. It will be full of bliss, literally. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Amit. We have a question regarding a certain example that you could bring about specific practices that you offer in the master degree program. So you mentioned exploring the archetypes. I know this is a very important part that we go through. Is there any other practices that you would like to bring as example, or kind of practices that we do in the program?
The practice, of course, they can be summarized in very few words, like meditation, creativity. So meditation is a must practice, but meditation usually only touches the mental dimension. The power of the quantum way of doing it, the scientific way of doing it, is that now we have legitimized a path of practice that was never legitimate in the wisdom tradition for some reason or other. Actually, I know the reason, but it will be a sidetrack, so I won't mention it. But this exploration of feeling, or what we call vital energy, energy vital, is extremely important and accelerates the path so much. So we supplement the mental process of meditation and creativity. Creativity, I already have told you, the 7I process. Meditation is part of both U, because it helps us focus, and B, meditation also helps us relax. So meditation helps the creativity process. Both aspects of meditation help one of the aspects or the other of creativity. Do, two kinds of meditation. But at the same time, we promote the vital energy creativity, how to move vital energy from conditioned repertoire to a creative, new repertoire. And that requires a different kind of practice. This is the kind of practice that is especially practiced by the Chinese, very famous, Qigong, Tai Chi, or in India, they are called pranayama, breathing practices. Using quantum science, we have now integrated yoga practices, breathing practices, and Qigong practices all together into what, this is Valentina's name, quantum yoga. So, and this is what she does. Valentina personally will teach you how to practice quantum yoga. This is an entirely quantum way of doing practice towards creative fulfillment of your purpose of life. Thank you.
And it's a wonderful program that I've been through with Valentina. By the way, I opened my heart by her guidance in Hyderabad, India, 2 years ago. So we don't practice like common meditation for the mind. When we have the chance to go back to India, we hope we can do that soon. As part of the program, we have retreats there. We go to very special places for high experiences in spirituality with Valentina. Amit, we have several questions, but I would like to ask you just one more before we go. It's because it's regarding my favorite subject, that's quantum leadership. So okay. We have here, suppose that I am a quantum leader working in an organization that has a materialist mindset. What would you suggest for a new paradigm on leadership based on quantum science?
Well, if you are working in an intermediate managerial position in a place which is mainly materialistic and has materialist pursuits, obviously it does, because majority of our industry and technology is about materialist pursuits. Then you are in a tough situation. So the resolution in when you have such tough situations is, of course, if you have emotional intelligence, that will make you a better manager, no question. So the personal growth part will work. And also you have some access to the executive leadership, because you are yourself a lower level executive. Therefore, you can try to influence your executives in recognizing that if they align the worldview, their worldview with the worldview of majority, namely at least the lower executives who do the creative work, then the productivity will actually increase. And if they change the vital energy aspects of the workplace, this is a major contribution you can make. You can show by example, just by simply redecorating your own office and showing that how that helps you to be creative, and redecorating the higher boss's office and see how that helps him to be creative. It's not that difficult. You know, I lived in a university as a full professor for years and years. And initially I thought it is hopeless because everybody was just criticizing. Everybody was just after me. When shall I live? I mean, they didn't want me around. And then gradually, that changed a little bit. So I strongly believe you cannot change people too much because they won't do any practices like we are suggesting. No, but the results speak for themselves. The results are that students feel more, in my case, students felt more encouraged, and they even were working with me, not many, only 2 in the last 10 years of my stay there. But 2 PhD students is a lot in a university setting. And they graduated, both of them graduated, and the departments that were involved, they passed these students because, all universities have a committee they have to go through. I alone could not have passed them. So they become flexible to that extent. But of course, everybody's situation is different. So our main suggestion is that you leave any environment that is not really helping you to be a leader. These middle-level leadership positions usually end up nowhere. So it is much better, and we prepare you for it, to become your own leader in a new venture. This is why quantum entrepreneurship is a big part of our education in the search of prosperity, in the exploration of prosperity. And what we teach you is transformation of emotions. So you won't be fearful anymore. You won't be fearful of uncertainty. You have your belly full of courage. You'll see. And it's an amazing experience. And when you're not fearful anymore, because survival is not an issue anymore. And in some ways, that's the movement of consciousness that comes to help you. And life just becomes a sort of, you put yourself in the river and the river will carry you where you want to go. You don't have to really work a whole lot thinking this way, that way, like we try to do today. We try to be clever when intelligence is being called for. No, we can go on intelligence, but we have to be courageous to enter our own venture. And this is what I'm doing, and this is what all of you are capable of doing, and this is what we really train people for. But of course, you can do a job, because I did in the first part of my life, I did. And it is possible to do a job and change your environment, not so fast, but gradually. Okay, I hope that answered your question. It is a very, very good question. And leadership consists of taking charge of your life. That's the first test of leadership. Leadership is definitely not succumbing to fear. One of the first requirements of leadership is having courage. And we don't just talk about it. We don't give you mental courage. We show you what vital creativity you need to do to make yourself really courageous in your belly. You will have fire in your belly and nobody will be able to stand up to it. Courageous like Gandhi was, courageous like all the great spiritual teachers were. They are not afraid. And you won't be either. And that's the leadership that we need today. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate being with you. And hopefully, Clarissa, you will try your best to answer the rest of the questions, some of them at least.
Of course. Amit, thank you very much. I know that you stayed with us a little later. It's 8:45 p.m. in India. Thank you with all my heart. Keep counting on me to spread the movement and hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. Bom dia.
Muito obrigada a todos e a todas por a sua participação. É uma alegria imensa. Vou reforçar aqui os meus contatos no chat. Estejam à vontade para me contatar em privado, para ter mais informações sobre o programa ou sobre conteúdo. Eu também tenho feito encontros semanalmente no Instagram para falar sobre ciência quântica. Já temos uma certa quantidade de gravações, inclusive de lives sobre o tema, disponíveis no meu canal do IGTV. Então, quem ainda não me segue, esteja à vontade de seguir. Os links estão aqui no chat. Aqui você tem acesso também ao meu WhatsApp direto. E já foram convidados aqui para o grupo Inteligência Criativa também, onde a gente pode continuar trocando ideias. Quem tem dúvidas sobre o programa, vamos conversar. Quem tem vontade de participar, pode falar comigo para ter acesso à bolsa de estudos de 30%. E uma satisfação imensa estar aqui com vocês hoje. Muito obrigada pela sua presença, pela sua energia, pelo seu carinho, e espero rever vocês em breve. Muito obrigada.